What's up, everybody? Cinephile Mike is here, and we are in Season 4 of Award Season Reviews, counting down to the 98th Academy Awards with 98 reviews in 98 days. And tomorrow is the day. The Oscars are here tomorrow. We are in our 14th and final theme week. This is the penultimate episode of the season. Today, I am discussing Focus Features' Bugonia. Written by Will Tracy, based on the film Save the Green Planet by Jang Joon-hwan, and directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, the film premiered at the Venice Film Festival before coming to theaters in the fall of last year. Bugonia centers on Teddy Gatz, played by Jesse Plemons, a deeply paranoid beekeeper and conspiracy theorist who becomes convinced that Michelle Fuller, played by Emma Stone, the powerful CEO of a major pharmaceutical company, and his boss, is not actually human. Believing she is part of a hidden alien species tied to corporate control and the disappearance of the world's bees and environmental collapse, Teddy kidnaps her with the help of his cousin Don, played by Aidan Delbis, and brings her back to his home, where he is determined to expose what he believes is the truth before an approaching lunar eclipse changes everything. He just wants Michelle to take him back to her people to get them to leave Earth. From there, Bugonia largely unfolds as a rather tense and bizarre standoff between Teddy and Michelle, with Don caught somewhere in the middle. It's very rock and a hard place. Teddy has constructed this entire worldview around the idea that Michelle is communicating with larger extraterrestrial forces, and as the days pass, he becomes more desperate to get a confession out of her, or some kind of contact. Meanwhile, Michelle remains very calm, cool, collected, difficult to read, which only makes the situation more volatile as the power between captor and captive begins to shift in interesting and unpredictable ways. What starts as an already strange kidnapping story becomes something much more unstable as the outside world begins to close in and Teddy's grip on the situation grows more fragile, including an interesting interaction with a man from his past, Deputy Sheriff Casey Boyd, played by Stavros Halkias. Without spoiling where it goes, the situation continues to spiral as Teddy's plan becomes harder to control, and Michelle begins to reveal just enough to make him and Don both question what is real and what is really happening. As more outside pressure closes in and the danger begins to escalate inside the house, the film keeps raising the stakes in very interesting and strange and shocking ways. It's best left to go unspoiled and not say anything else. Look, Emma Stone, she continues to make the extremely strong case that she is one of the best actresses of her generation, if not the best. And Bugonia gives her yet another fascinatingly layered performance. And what makes her work so compelling here is how understated it is for much of the time. And then we have Jesse Plemons, who is also excellent here, giving a delightfully off-kilter performance that's both absurd and yet totally grounded due to Teddy's worldview. I don't know if anyone saw the movie Game Night, the comedy that he's in. It's almost like Teddy plays a spiritual cousin to his bizarre cop. And I mean this as a compliment. Game Night is a great film. Little shout out. And in his feature film debut, Aidan Delbis brings, much more complexity to what could have been a one-note supporting role, so he really impresses here. Now, as we saw in Kinds of Kindness, not a great Lanthimos film, but the rapport between Stone and Plemons is one of this film's greatest strength. They have this rhythm that we saw in Kinds of Kindness, and we have it here, that make the exchanges, even the strange ones, feel oddly normal. When the film settles into the back and forth, there's a real fascinating tension where you find yourself, weirdly sympathetic for both of them, and yet being repelled by both of them at the same time. Jerskin Fendrix, the score, He's the composer. It plays such a huge role in sustaining that tension, alternating between something subtle and unnerving, and then swelling into cues that are very reminiscent of old Hollywood-style sci-fi thrillers, which is a lot of fun to hear. Where the film, for me, stumbles is the balance. I do think Lanthimos' central message lands, and honestly, this disdain for humanity feels uncomfortably immediate in our current moment, which gives the film just a sharp edge more that makes it, just more than another weird, quirky film. The bookending imagery involving bees and their life cycles adds a strong thematic layer, and the environmental undercurrent works very well. But in a film that runs just under 2 hours, there's a stretch in the middle that makes it feel like it could have been tightened up a bit. And while I understand the purpose of the Casey character, the sheriff, the subplot, it never fully worked for me and doesn't quite push the narrative the way I feel that it needs to, and it kind of gets thrown away. The final act, too, also feels a little bit rushed, even if some of the, I guess the best way to say it, the kitschier visual choices are somewhat entertaining. Look, is this the Lanthimos of The Favorite and Poor Things? No, but we're a step above Kinds of Kindness, and, it's still a fascinating, provocative, timely piece of sci-fi satire. All right, let's talk box office and awards. At the end of its run, Bugonia made $17,692,390 domestically and an additional $25,623,688 internationally for a worldwide take of $43,316,078. Critically, the film is almost balanced with a tomato meter of 87% from 331 critic reviews and an 84% popcorn meter from over 1,000 audience reviews. Award season-wise, Bugonia is currently nominated for 4 Oscars: Best Picture, Best Original Score, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Actress for Emma Stone. It was BAFTA nominated for Best Director for Lanthimos, Adapted Screenplay, Score, Actress for Stone, and Actor for Plemons. 3 Critics' Choice nods for Picture, Actress, Stone, and Adapted Screenplay. 3 Golden Globe nods, Best Picture, Actress, and Actor, all in the musical or comedy category. And again, both Stone and Plemons were nominated by their peers for the Actor, formerly the SAG Awards. And these are just a few of the major highlights of the over 130 nominations that this film received, which includes various critic circles, film festivals, and guilds, such as the Casting Society, the Society of Composers and Lyricists, the American Cinema Editors, the Costume Designers Guild, Makeup Artists and Hairstylists Guild, the Art Directors Guild, the Set Decorators Society, the Writers Guild, and the Producers Guild. So, where do I land on this one? This one is interesting. And more so, I will say this is a film that might warrant more than one watch. Because after my first watch, I was kind of feeling one way, but after a second, I kind of shifted a bit. This is a solidly made 4-star film. Lanthimos entertains and shocks in equal measure. Now, if you haven't seen this one, you have some choices. There are still a few screenings in movie theaters, building up towards Oscar hype, so those box office numbers can change. Or you can head over to Peacock, where it is currently streaming. All right, folks, thank you all for joining me for episode 97 of Award Season Reviews. Can you believe that tomorrow is the season finale? One left. I will see you there. Please follow me everywhere, social platforms, Letterboxd. Head over to my website, cinephilemike.com, for more movie reviews and movie goodies. I'll be back tomorrow with that last episode, and if you've been following, I think you know which one I'm going to close with, and it's a powerful one. But until then, this is Cinephile Mike saying take a break and watch something new.